Right, Cam, I think we'll get started. The session will be recorded, and we'll make the session available online afterwards, along with, it's a good test here, the CoPilot annotated notes of the session, right? So we'll give it a test. For those of you that don't know who I am, I'm Mike Starnes. I'm Commercial Director at Foundation IT. We are a Azure and M365 MSP business, and have been in this sort of market for best part of 7-8 years in terms of that Azure and M365 space. CoPilot is new. It is a slight deviation from where we've historically specialized in that sort of AVD and Azure space, but is quickly coming into our world, and we as a business adopted it when it became available to us. So we have some sort of first-hand experience of using it. I'm joined by Cameron, who I'll let introduce himself, who's going to walk us through some of the CoPilot features, functions, use cases, etc. And he's spent best part of 6 months, I guess, spending time with partners and end users talking about this subject. So I'll let you do your intro, Cam, if you wouldn't mind giving a quick hello to people.
Yeah, no, at all. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Good morning, everyone. My name's Cameron Mail. I work for a company called Infinigate Cloud. My official job title is pretty wordy, but I'm the modern work and business apps commercial lead here. But all you need to know is that I cover everything for the business I work when it comes to Microsoft 365. Typically, that means the apps that you're used to using every day. That's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook and Teams. CoPilot for 365, big part of that. As Mike said, I feel like AI has been my life for the last almost a year, probably, since it was first announced. Genuinely, I love going through and helping people to understand what it is, what's exciting about it, what it can do today, and how I might be able to help them in the future, and hope to give you some of that today as well.
Thanks. And just to explain the relationship between Foundation IT and Infinigate Cloud, previously Vusion, we use Infinigate for I don't know what the best description is. You're our CSP for Microsoft, right? So we buy all our Microsoft services via Infinigate, and that's where the relationship comes, and we lean on them for support quite a lot. So just quick intro then. We plan to go through I guess the principles of CoPilot for M365 today. I think everybody is probably healthily skeptical about hype cycles. We've been through quite a few in the last few years. Internet of Things, the metaverse, augmented and virtual reality, and AI is sort of part of that. I think that important for everybody just to be informed about what this is and how it affects us, because whilst most people on this call is affiliated in some way with the IT department, this is not just an IT project or an IT subject, because there's absolutely going to be the emergence of more shadow IT coming as part of this, as people say, well, how do I get more productivity from my team? So the plan is to give you an introduction to CoPilot for M365. What is it? What are the things you've got to think about in preparation for its adoption? How are people using it? And I think that the list of use cases is growing. There are some limitations, and I might flag a few of those in terms of my personal experience of using it. We'll talk a bit about the commercial implications and the things that you can do to kind of get started. We are really fortunate to have Cam on the call, and he'll do the lion's share of the presentation. So I'll hand over to him shortly to go through it. Everyone's cameras and mics are off, but you should all be able to post in the chat or the Q&A. If you've got questions as you go through, please post them. We'll do our level best to either deal with them on this call or afterwards. Cam, over to you, mate.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, as you said there, please, if you've got any questions, we will have a bit of time at the end to go through them. But please put them in as we go through. If you're thinking something, chances are someone else is thinking it as well. So, we're here to help. As you can see on the agenda, quite a bit for us to go through today. So I am going to jump straight into it for us. And I wanted to start here. I wanted to start with what could be, hopefully, a familiar
Clippy.
face for some. It's Clippy. And I wanted to show this just because, as it says there, I'm your father, kind of, I guess, in terms of, what Clippy was really like looking to do and how it's looking to help people. Copilot for 365 absolutely is looking to help people in a very similar way, and that's to get the most out of their Microsoft 365 apps. And Clippy was there to try and help people get everything out of Word or get everything out of Excel. That's exactly what Copilot for 365 is looking to do as well across each of those applications. So hopefully, I can give you enough information from today that one, you can see the comparison, but two, you can see just how far we've come as well in actually being able to achieve that goal that they were looking to achieve right back in the 90s. Right, I wanted to surface then some statistics here. Some of this, I'm sure resonates with all or at least most of us on the call. About 2/3 of people, saying that they're struggling with finding enough time and energy to get their work done. I definitely count myself in that 2/3 there. And a big reason I think for that is just the amount of time that we're spending in meetings generally, but especially in Teams meetings, has massively increased since COVID. It says 3 times here. It's probably more like 5, 6 times for me. And spending a majority of my week in Teams having meetings, which is great, right? It means that I could do a lot more. I can speak to a lot more people. I can work more efficiently and more productively. But that also then brings on the idea of what we call digital debt. So I could do so much more. And again, I could speak to more people. I probably speak to between 50 to 100 people a week. But with that, and that'd be very difficult to do before Teams, right? Or before the technology that I'm using daily. But with digital debt, what that means is that if I have more meetings, that's more people I need to remember. It's more files I'm working on. It's more actions I've agreed and I need to carry out. It's that I could do a lot more, but it means that I also have to do a lot more. I think that sort of ties into why we see a similar statistic there. About 2/3 of people, a little bit more, saying they would look to delegate as much as possible to AI to lessen their workloads. You're going to hear me talk a bit about digital debt as we go through, in terms of what it is, but then also how Copilot for 365 is there to help and how I've personally found it definitely helped me in that regard. So just quickly, I've got Copilot for 365. I've had that now for about a month. It's been available for about a month. I've had it pretty much since release. It's absolutely helped me in that way where I'm speaking about it more. Again, I'm in more meetings than I ever have been. I've got a lot more work on, but actually I've got the ability to let go a little bit more. It does absolutely, help me, and this genuinely has reduced my stress. So we'll be talking about that as we go through today. Right, I wanted to show this page. This, in a nutshell, is kind of why I got a job this page. It's because Microsoft are really good at, I think, getting a message out there, not necessarily so good at getting the right specific message out. And that's where I can, look to hopefully step in and make it a little bit clearer. Copilot, if we just say just that word, Copilot, I think a lot of people kind of rightfully have been attributing that to one specific product, which is Copilot for Microsoft 365. And that's what we're focusing on today. We're focusing on that product, and as you can see in the top left, that helps you in the apps that you're using every day. But actually, Copilot is an umbrella term. It means you see Copilot whenever we are talking about an AI assistant that helps you in an area. Not even necessarily Microsoft, because I've seen other businesses already adopt that term Copilot as well. But you can see here that there is already a lot of different AI assistants or co-pilots across the Microsoft stack, right? If we look at Power Platform, that's, for instance, Power Apps that can help you create applications, low code, no code. Power BI to help you create data reports and visualize your data really effectively, again, as an AI assistant to help you do that even quicker. A GitHub Copilot that helps devs write code faster and more efficiently. Across the stack, you're going to see a lot of different Copilots and AI assistants. We're focusing today on the top left one, Copilot for Microsoft 365. But that term, Copilot, it's called that for a reason. It's not lead pilot. It's not autopilot. Now, I promise you, this isn't going to be replacing jobs. This can't do anything without that human input, first of all, right? It's genuinely is there to help you do your job quicker, easier, faster, better. And how I like to sort of frame this, or suggest people could frame this as well, is it's almost like having an intern that you can have, but actually you can give to everyone within your organization as well. And we'll be sort of coming back to that intern piece throughout today, but again, it can absolutely help you to lessen some of your workload, by delegating some of your tasks to your assistant. For instance, a really, really good one is in meetings. They could be taking minutes or taking down action items. But if you're looking to give other tasks to them, you're still going to want to work with that intern or with that co-pilot to ensure that you're happy with what it's done. So it can help you do things quicker, but it's not going to do your work completely for you. Hopefully you get a glimpse of that today when we look at some of the use cases.
And that's perhaps the subtle difference between, I think everybody probably on the call, and certainly within our business, and I'm sure yours as well, Cam, had that early experience with ChatGPT. That's become a big part of our daily lives. It's sort of replaced the search engine to some extent. There is a subtle difference between, say, CoPilot for M365 and, say, something like ChatGPT, on the grounds that this is a specific AI tool set to help with productivity within M365, not to be confused with ChatGPT, which is a large language model that's perhaps a very powerful chat search engine, and gives you lots of powerful content, but it's not specific to M365.
Absolutely, you've led me on perfectly. Which is going to be
it's almost like we rehearsed that, and I promise you we didn't.
So for this table here, I don't have ChatGPT here, but if I did, you'd see one tick, which is the GPT large language model. So there are other tools already available today that you can be using. They're probably going to be free to you in your business. Those are Bing Chat, and what was called Bing Chat for Enterprise is now called Microsoft Copilot. And again, we're seeing that term. It's a different product. You're going to see a few more tick boxes there compared to ChatGPT. And so I'll quickly talk about those. You can use this today. Let's say we're going to copilot.microsoft.com. If you have a business standard or higher license, which will be most, if not everyone on the call here, you're going to be able to use a free AI assistant here that's using the same technology as ChatGPT, or similar technology in the fact it's on top of a large language model. But you're also having the ability to search the web, and it will then source you and show you where I found those sources as well. But really the key difference here is that idea of commercial data protection. So not everyone knows this, but ChatGPT, whenever you're discussing or having a conversation with it or asking it to do something for you, it's learning from that conversation. Everything that's being shared with it, it's pulling in, it's internalizing. Microsoft Copilot and the Copilot for 365, which we're focusing on today, they don't do that. Anything that you share with the large language model isn't going further. It's not leaving your organization. It's not internalizing that information. So you can be safe in the knowledge that even if you're sharing sensitive business knowledge, information, it's not going outside of your walls. It's still staying, within those walls. So if you want to have an AI assistant like ChatGPT, but you want to be able to, give it to your employees, and you want to be safe in the knowledge that, again, this isn't really going to be going outside your organization, that's where I would start. Start with Microsoft Copilot, which again, you can get to today, copilot.microsoft.com. You can see more tick boxes there, though, for Copilot for Microsoft 365. So I'll quickly touch on these 3 points, but this is where I'll be touching on these 3 boxes a lot through today's session. First of all, security, compliance, privacy, absolutely key for everything we talk Microsoft. You can make the argument they're one of the largest, if not the largest, cybersecurity provider in the world. And to give you an idea, as to how good they are at it, they're the largest business in the world by market cap, over 3 trillion, and they only use their own security products when it comes to security. So they're definitely doing something right there. The M365 graph, whenever you see this, when you see the word graph in a Microsoft context, what that means is it's your organizational data. So it can leverage your files or your people, your meetings, your emails, everything on chats, everything that is within your organization. Copilot for 365 can leverage that as well, which is going to be really powerful, as we'll see a little bit later. And for me, the biggest thing is the fact that it's nested within your applications that you're used to already using every day. Like ChatGPT is its own thing in a browser that you absolutely can interact with an interface. There's a lot of power, a lot of strength that comes from the fact it's on top of your data and it's within the apps that you're using every day. And I hope to jump into that a little bit more when we look at some of the use cases. I don't want to spend much time here, but I think it's interesting to know if you haven't already seen this. ChatGPT isn't even 2 years old. It came out November 2022, so it's not even a year and a half old. It feels like it's been here for a lot longer, though. Definitely to me, and might feel the same for others. But for me, this is staggering. It reached 100 million users in only 3 months. That's pretty exceptional, especially if you compare it to other technology. And that's because there's just so much interest. I think when it does come to AI, whether it's on the hesitation front about, oh, I need to know what this is in case it steals my job, I 100% understand those hesitations, but also from the context of how can I use this to help me? And that's absolutely where we're at today.
And it feels like with every sort of technological advancement, the rate and pace of change and adoption is accelerating. You can no longer wait. You've got to find a way of embracing the shift, which is what we're in. There's no doubt we're in sort of a digital revolutionary state where you can draw comparisons to the Industrial Revolution in terms of where we are now. I think there's a really good analyst who works for Canalys, a guy called Jay McBain, who, if you don't follow him on LinkedIn and socials, you really should. Listen to a briefing from him last week that said in their assessment of the marketplace, which I think the sample size was 5,000 global businesses, 75% of businesses have already adopted some form of AI and machine learning into their business models. That could be a really small percentage of users, but it's a big number.
Yeah, staggering in comparison to even just a few years ago. And ChatGPT released less than 18 months ago, and now OpenAI this week released Sora, which is text to video. Right, that's in only 18 months. What's everything going to look like in another 18 months, or in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Yeah, so we'll see. But it's good to have you all here along the journey today to get to know what these products are already capable of. For that reason. We'll skip through that one. Okay, cool. Don't worry, you're not going to be listening to my voice all day, or at least for the full hour. We've got a few videos to bring and show you as well. So this one is a very, very high level look at CoPilot over 365. Don't worry, we'll be looking at it a little bit deeper and specifically for each application as we go through. But I wanted to show this, one, to break it up, but two, also just to, again, give you a bit of a high level look at what it could do. I apologize in advance for the music. I didn't pick it. I think it's a bit loud and obnoxious.
I didn't pick it either.
Yeah, especially I've heard this hundreds of times. At least hopefully you only need to listen to it once. But if you can't hear any audio, do let me know. You don't need to hear it for this one, but we will need it for some other videos. But I'll stop waffling on. I'll put this on for us now. Mike, was the audio coming through for you for that one?
Yeah, it did. Video was a little bit jumpy, but I think it worked okay.
Okay. All right. Hopefully that was helpful is, as I say, is a summary of what the product can do. Let me skip through. We'll get a little bit more into it when we look at specifically how it can help for Word, PowerPoint, etc. But again, I want to bring us back to this point, which is that, you know, while some similar technology maybe you've already used in ChatGPT, being the large language model, but the ability to work on your data within your apps is what brings, you know, all this new strength and power to it. And again, you can be safe in the knowledge that your data isn't being used to train the AI models, and your data is completely protected throughout. I'll skip through that. I'm going to skip through this video. What it is a 2-3 minutes of like talking through how specifically it works. It's a bit technical. I wanted to, you know, focus a bit more on the business use cases. Microsoft. If you are looking for this information, absolutely, you know, me and Mike can help you in that area.
I think that video, if I'm right in saying so, Cam, is available separately, or that there are links to the architecture which I'll share when I share the link to the recording out, so if people want to see that.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so 3 things up on screen here then. So we're talking about AI. How can AI help us? And I think 2 of these are maybe a bit more obvious if we've been using AI, or at least, you know, paying attention to how others are using AI. So with, you know, the ability to help it write blog posts, or, you know, do your homework for you. You know, you could definitely see the productivity side, creativity. You know, we've seen that this week with Sora and with image creation as well. There's definitely the argument that it removes creativity, but you can also make the argument that it means that more people can do things that maybe they couldn't have before. They might have an idea in their brain, but might not know necessarily how to, you know, actually achieve it. AI can help them do some of those bits and pieces. One thing that maybe isn't too obvious or too clear as to how AI can assist us, which is the idea of up-leveling skills. So I wanted to talk about this briefly. I'm not asking anyone particularly on this call, but if I was to ask, you know, are you an expert in Excel? I would expect that at least the majority of people would say that they're not an expert in Excel. I've had one person say that they are, which did surprise me. No, but even if you are an expert in Excel, are you an expert in PowerPoint, in Outlook and Teams? Can you do everything in each of those applications? There's a lot you can do, right? Even if you just think as to what you have up on the ribbon at the top row, right? It's going to have a lot of icons. Clicking into any of those often produces a menu that has even more options. And then if you click a tab, you're going to get a full new ribbon with different things. There's a lot you can do across each of these applications. And Excel, if I pick that as a particular example, I consider myself okay at Excel. You know, I could do most things, but I quite often come up to a situation where I know I could do something quicker if I had the formula. I just don't know what it is. So I could either go ask somebody that's better at Excel than me, or I could go to Google, and, you know, by the time I've looked at 3 articles and they've sort of helped me, but then I have to play around with it myself, and I've spent an hour to save myself 10 minutes, and it's not actually been all that useful. But CoPilot is an expert in all of these apps, and it can help you, you know, get there quicker. So, you know, I would be able to use CoPilot to give me the answer, you know, for that specific example there, rather than have to, you know, have a look through Google and try and find it myself. I can just ask CoPilot, how can you do that? Can you do this? If so, can you do it for me? Then ask it afterwards, how did you do that? So, you know, I could be more effective, quicker and easier next time as well. So I can actually save that 10 minutes in a matter of seconds, rather than, you know, wasting time to try and save time. Nothing really here to like talk about or focus on. It's just, you know, again, a bit of a high level summary is pretty much what we spoke about today. But again, the main things for me is that it's on top of your data, right? It's your organizational content, it's your organizational context, and it's in apps that you're using every day. From there, I'm going to jump into actually watching some specific use cases then across these applications. So this is the 5 I'm going to be looking at today for us. Starting with Word. So I like to start here because it's probably the most translatable from like ChatGPT or other AI tools if you've already been using them. Pretty much what you see here it can do. It's already, you know, really effective when it comes to Word. And never having to start with a blank page again. So we'll start here, but what you will see is One, it being within the application, within Word, but you'll also see that it's leveraging some of the organizational data as well. So keep an eye out for that when we watch through this.
Hopefully the audio is okay. I know it was for
Let's
some
see
and
how
not for everyone.
CoPilot can use your customer notes in OneNote, as well as another internal document. CoPilot gets to work and quickly creates a first draft. Now let's say you want this to look like your previous proposals. CoPilot can give you a draft in the format you typically use. It inserts product images and pulls in relevant visuals from other files. You can include a short summary at the top of the document. And CoPilot can make suggestions to strengthen the proposal, like adding an FAQ, which it will generate for you. Now remember, you're not going to send this off to a customer without a thorough review, but CoPilot still saved you tons of time in the process. Let's see.
There we go. So that was Word. Was that one still coming through okay?
Yeah, looked like it, Cam, and validation from John that he could hear this one.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Okay. So that's why, as I say, I like to start there just because, it's not too much of a leap from maybe what you've already seen and used before, but hopefully you can already see there, how it absolutely will be able to help you to write, to edit, to summarize and create right alongside you, again, within the application you're already using, but being able to pull in files or other, context from across your organization as you're going through. Did you want to add anything for Word, Michael?
This is going to be a theme throughout every one of these use cases. Our most precious commodity, particularly, is typically leaders of a department or leaders of a business, whatever it might be. It is time, and so often a large percentage of our time is spent on doing repetitive or lower value tasks, such as finding the right files, putting it in the right format. If we just take Word as an example, and this definitely, even if it's just saving a few minutes, the number of times you have to do things like this incrementally over the course of the year adds up to being a significant amount of time. And all of us should be trying to focus on, okay, how can I spend more time doing things that matter as opposed to things that need to be done but aren't as important. And it's little I think that's a theme throughout all of the examples you're going to give, and something that personally has impacted me with my use of CoPilot for sure.
Yeah, I've got a specific use case actually for that as well. So this slide deck that we're going through today, I was supposed to be going through this yesterday with our board on the European side. So I could talk to them about CoPilot. They're all extremely busy, right, as part of the senior leadership team for a multi-billion euro business. So couldn't do yesterday, unfortunately. But so they wanted to, before the meeting that's been rebooked for next week, they wanted a summary of what we'd be going through. So in Word, I just asked Word to create like a 2-page summary of this slide deck. Genuinely did that in maybe 30 seconds. I had a quick read through. I didn't need to change anything at all. I think it was spot on. It's genuinely, can be surprisingly effective at some of these tasks. So look, that saved them some time, trying to get some of that information. But in terms of me actually being able to do it for them, genuinely, took me 1 minute to create and then send it across. So absolutely helps in the context of time. And as you said, I think we'll see that through each of these use cases here today.
Yeah, and what the other use case that I've certainly made use of is, I get sent a lot of documents to review, and whilst it doesn't necessarily replace a formal peer review, it's really good at spotting anomalies in language and maybe making suggestions about how you can improve a document quality. But it also does a really good job of summarizing content. If you're faced with a 50-page document and what you don't need to peer review that, but what you do need is you need the substance from that doc. It does a really good job of summarizing the key points and key takeaways, and maybe where there's repetition of key points. That again, as a bit of a time saver, is really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. can take a look at PowerPoint then. So I'll show this 1 second because, first of all, look at Word and you can maybe sort of do some of it in ChatGPT, but what you're going to see here, you absolutely can't do in other AI tools. I will preface this by saying, what you're going to see in a lot of this is not going to be as quick or as slick, right? This is going to show you, they can do something in literally seconds. It can do, it just takes a few more seconds, right? It can create a slide deck in maybe about 30, 40 seconds from my experience doing it. You're also going to see it looks, I think quite pretty, quite visually striking, ready to go immediately. But it hasn't been my personal experience. But in terms of pulling in information from a file, putting it into slides, and that you could present it on, absolutely, it does help you do that. But it may not be quite as fully realized today as what we're seeing here. But again, with generative AI, this stuff's getting better weekly, let alone monthly or so. Again, I'm going to show you it can do, just maybe not quite as quickly and effectively as you're going to see.
Now let's say you're getting ready for your customer pitch meeting. Everyone has had a moment when they wish they could turn their proposal into a customer-ready presentation without having to start from scratch. Well, guess what? Now you can. Using just your own words, CoPilot can translate Word into PowerPoint, and it can also translate PowerPoint into a Word document. Now you have a professional-looking presentation that you can hone and polish. Let's say you want to add a slide. Give CoPilot some quick instructions. There it goes, ready for you to review. So this slide is too wordy. Let's ask CoPilot to make it more visual. I'll give it a few seconds. And check this out, CoPilot can even animate the slide. It gives it a professional design treatment in a single click. But it doesn't stop there. CoPilot can even generate speaker notes. No, I'm serious, speaker notes. It's not only a time saver, it's helping me be a better presenter and close this deal.
I love every time I watch this how excited he gets about speaker notes. Does make me laugh. But yeah, Mike, how have you used it in PowerPoint yet?
Yeah,
So
I have, and my experience is similar to yours. At the moment, in PowerPoint, it's not quite living up to those expectations of here's my proposal document, or here's some end of month information that I need to present, convert that into a really pretty slide deck for me. It's giving me a great start, and it's transferring information from A to B. It's not quite as polished as that, but it's going to get better. I think that's the promise here, is that it will get better, and the output eventually will feel like that, because that's what they aspire to get to. So yeah, not quite living up to expectations yet in PowerPoint, but is still shaving off time in terms of giving us a good start.
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree. Monthly we do a what's called a town hall for our partners, which is it's consolidating all the information from Microsoft that we think is key in each of the areas. So that's key in Azure and for cloud infrastructure, key in Microsoft 365. And essentially all we're doing is that we're going through and we're finding all the updates and we're putting them into how we want to portray that in our summary and in terms of our formatting. And that probably takes, from my side, takes about 5 hours, but there's another 3 people that work on it that take about 5 hours each as well. So for a 1 hour presentation, it takes about 15 to 20 hours of work. Using it this month, it was a lot quicker in terms of pulling that information from URLs and summarizing it. Still needed to spend a bit of time making sure that the formatting, I was happy with how it looked. But yeah, definitely saved me time. That took me, I think, 2 hours rather than 5 hours. But I could see this getting to a point in the future where actually that 2 hours becomes 1 hour, becomes half an hour, etc. So it's still very helpful, but not quite, exactly what you may have been seeing in the video there today. I want to talk about Excel before we watch the video. Have you used it in Excel at all, Mike?
I have. It forces you to convert the data into a table before you can do anything with it. But actually, I've used it to analyze data a number of times, and it's done a really good job of, without me needing to write a formula. I've asked it a real world plain text question. It's given me the answer, which has been really helpful. I'm not a massive Excel user, I've got to admit, so I've not used it in earnest. But again, the promise there is that instead of having to know and necessarily learn all the different sums and rules that you can use in Excel, you can just ask it a question and it's going to spit out the answer you're looking for, particularly if it's around analyzing or summarizing certain sections of data.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I've heard the most mixed things about Excel. Being it's currently in preview. This is the only section which is still in preview. So if you watch this and go, wow, this is amazing, I want Copilot today purely for this reason, I wouldn't want to say don't do that, but I would say that yeah, as it's in preview, it's probably the most beta, but Copilot of the 5 that we're seeing today. So maybe view this as a bit more of a promise where it's going to go a bit more than where it is necessarily today. Yeah, don't worry, that's not the case for everyone. It's not the case for Outlook and Teams, which we look after. But yeah, I'll play Excel for us now.
You start by asking Copilot to analyze the data and give you 3 key trends. Within seconds, you've got what you need, but you want to drill in. You ask Copilot to follow up question about one of the trends. Copilot creates a new sheet, helping you better understand what's going on with this customer. You ask Copilot to visualize what contributed to the decline in sales growth this period. Copilot adds a little color to make the problem jump off the page. Now you want to dig deeper and ask a follow-up question. Copilot not only answers your question, it creates a simple model of the scenario, and even asks if you want to learn more about what it did, with a step-by-step breakdown. Finally, you can ask it to create a graph of your projected model. Copilot turned a sea of data into clear insights and actions.
Yeah, so that was Excel. As I say, from my experience, what I've heard as well from other people is say there's the most in preview, but just definitely still wanted to give you an idea as to absolutely where it's going. And again, similar to PowerPoint, where you're going to see a lot of this already available and possible today. I don't want to sit here and say absolutely you're going to get the exact same experience. So I not meaning to turn anyone off, but just wanted to.
It's right to set expectations about the. That's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this, is that there's so much hype around this that at the same time you've also got to be realistic about what it delivers. So whilst my personal experience, because I'm only asking it to do some simple analysis, is reasonably positive, the moment that you do go over those kind of simple queries and you're asking it to do something like it was showing in that video, it isn't quite getting to that point yet. And it's perhaps similar feedback to PowerPoint, right, in that both of those are work in progress, and will get better for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to look at Outlook then, and then we'll the last one of these we'll look at is Teams. I'll play the video for us now. A little bit different, obviously, with these two, a bit more focused on communication. But what I will say for these two as we go into them is this is where I've personally seen the most benefit. And from my speaking to other people, other users of Copilot, where they're traditionally, they're for the most part seeing the most benefit as well in these applications. So I'll play this and be a little bit different from what we've already been seeing.
Now let's see how Copilot can help you tackle your email. We all struggle with the pull of the inbox. Sometimes it keeps us from focusing on our most important work, but at the same time, you have important emails to respond to. Copilot can help you separate the signal from the noise and give you hours of time back. Copilot can triage your inbox, highlighting the most important emails to prioritize. And Copilot also helps you on the go with Outlook Mobile. It can summarize long email threads. You can draft a reply, use data from an Excel file, and Copilot will generate a reply for you. You can edit it. You can make it more concise, change the writing style, or add more context. Now all that's left to do is review the proposed response and hit send. It's a productivity game changer.
Yeah, and everything you see there for the mobile
Now,
version is across each client. So, you know, it's just want to make that clear, because it's almost suggested that what you see in mobile, you can only do in mobile. No, you can do that across each version of Outlook. How have you been finding it in Outlook, Mike?
Yeah, again, productivity gains for anyone that receives a lot of email. Sometimes you can end the day and think, Christ, I've just lived in my inbox today, and what have I actually delivered? So um, I've made most use of things like the summarization of long email chains, particularly if I'm CC'd in and I just want to get a flavor for what that conversation is about. It does a really good job of concatenating that information into sort of a one paragraph summary to say, and this is the action on you, or whatever it might be. I've also asked it to summarize the last 48 hours of my email and flag anything that I've not responded to, which is immensely helpful, as opposed to going back through your inbox and going, okay, what have I actually got to deal with? It's just flagged the 6 emails maybe that needed my attention, and I've been able to respond to them on the fly. I've used the draft response a handful of times. It doesn't quite align yet to my tone of voice, but I think that will improve the more I use it. I haven't used it yet to sort of draft me a new email. When I have asked it to do something that's new, I think it's more about education in terms of what I'm asking it to do in the prompt more than its capability. I think that one of the things that everybody that's going to use any form of AI, I think, whether it be ChatGPT or CoPilot, or any form factor of CoPilot, is we will, as users of the platforms, have to get better at structuring our instruction. I don't think that it's any secret that the way with which you structure your prompt is going to lead to either a good or bad outcome for you. Everybody that's used ChatGPT knows that the quality of your prompt, it links to the quality of response. If you asked it very specifically to, taking on the persona of a coach, can you? It's very similar, I think, here, in that there's an education required for users of this to put the right prompts in to get the right outcomes. So there's some learning for me to do personally there in terms of getting better outcomes to use that function. But like you, it's probably second to Teams in terms of where I've seen most gain, but definitely a really important area in terms of gaining productivity for me personally.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. The only thing from my perspective as well, I've sort of taken it back to the idea of like digital debt, where again it sort of helps you a little bit, where you can kind of let go. And you touched on a bit of that, where you said about, you can use it to find and pull emails that you haven't maybe replied to in the last like 48 hours. It's just, having something there where it's not you having to necessarily try and do your utmost to have to remember everything all of the time, because you're going to have something that can help you with that. And that sort of talks to a little bit around the drafting of responses as well, where maybe if I come out of 3 meetings back to back, then I've got a bunch of emails I need to go through, and then each one I need to go into what I guess I call create mode in my brain, where I'm going in and I know what I want to say, but I have to literally go, hi John, it was really great to see you today. Here's everything I said I'll send across. I'll see you next week. I had to think of each specific word and how I'm going to put it through, right? Where actually having the flexibility of choice where I can prompt CoPilot to draft me something. I know I'm probably going to need to edit it, but being in then edit mode rather than create mode sounds silly, but generally has helped, just reduce some of that, I guess, like mundanity that can come a little bit when you're stuck in your inbox going through, I don't know, 20, 25 emails. So a bit different, but
even the top and tail of that email that you might write 200 times a month, right? Hello, Cam. How are you? And then you go into kind of create mode. They're minor percentage incremental gains in terms of your time saving, but they soon add up.
Absolutely. But as you sort of said there, I think I've seen the most benefit out of Teams, especially from Teams meetings. So let's show that one. Now, this is probably the longest video. It's about 2.5 minutes, but I think that's because this is where most people see the most benefit already.
It looks like you have a dentist appointment that conflicts with your weekly business review. What if you could do both? With CoPilot, you can follow a meeting and catch up to see what you've missed, even if you can't attend. You'll get a notification in Teams when the recap is ready. You can see the content that was shared, detailed notes, and any action items. You see that one of your customers was discussed and want to learn more. You can use CoPilot to ask clarifying questions, and it provides a detailed response. You can ask questions like why a certain decision was made, and it provides the context. You can even ask what other solutions were considered. And with every response, it provides citations with a snapshot of the transcript. It's a huge time saver. So that was pretty cool, but the real magic of CoPilot happens during a live meeting. Let's say you're in a meeting with your team. You can ask CoPilot to summarize the meeting so far. You can see how it summarizes who said what points were made, and it's really capturing the spirit of the discussion. And as the meeting progresses, you can check in on where people stand. You can even ask CoPilot what questions were unresolved. It is just amazing to see this happen in real time.
Yeah, and it's definitely where I've seen the most benefit. But how's your experience been, Mike?
I spend so much of my time in meetings or being invited to meetings, and I think that's true of most people that have got that hybrid role. I mean, everyone gets the Zoom fatigue or Teams fatigue, whatever it might be. The simple ability to, after a meeting, some of the people that are on this webinar have actually experienced the follow-up to this, so I'll use them as guinea pigs for me just to say recap on the meeting that we've had and summarize the actions. It doesn't get it right every time, but 98% of what it records is bloody brilliant. And if I think about the time saved in terms of writing up a summary, or indeed providing that summary to somebody that may have missed the meeting, and then doing a good job of summarizing what the actions are and who the owners are, it does a really good job of that. So every now and then it misrecords the name of, say, a product or whatever it might be, if it's not in the English dictionary. But it's minor. You spend 30 seconds reviewing the content and distributing that out to people. That for me alone, that capability has given me personally an ROI on the license cost every month. And we'll go through the commercials shortly, but that component alone, regardless of however else we use it, just that capability has paid for the product, and given me a bunch of time back, or just made it, because the number of meetings I go on where I, whether it be a discipline or a time thing, where you don't send a follow-up and those meeting actions aren't properly recorded, it actually means that your discipline is better, and the quality of work and the quality of follow-up is far better.
Yeah, I agree with absolutely every point you said there. Yeah, I guess a few other things that I've come across that just sort of tie in, where I think it helps in the perspective of giving a bit more objectivity. So I had a weird call where we had someone that was extremely, extremely negative about his business, and just talking completely down to it, cussing a lot, just really wasn't very happy at all. And we all felt very, very awkward from the meeting. But then if I'm having a conversation with his manager, and I'm then sort of having to talk about it from, how I felt it went, CoPilot then sort of backed me up by saying, look, actually CoPilot felt the same way. And it did a really good job of summarizing there as well. So it's been, it's effective on that front, I guess, of actually saying, well, yes, even if you think this is how a meeting went, CoPilot says, yeah, you're right, that is how the meeting went. And it's really useful on the action items front as well, as you said. So we have a monthly sales meeting. It's typically about 3 hours long. Having CoPilot in the background, sort of taking minutes and then providing that summary was super useful, as was asking it to produce a list of action items by person. So it was saying, okay, well, Cameron, you have these 3 actions. Craig, you got these 2. Olgun, you got these 5. So it was pulling all of that together as well. And again, that was just, it's, as you said, accurate 98% of the time, which is a pretty good success rate. It does surprise me each time how well it gets it.
And to put that into context, if I think about the accuracy of my notes and follow-ups, and indeed most people after a meeting where you've scribbled notes down on a pad or you've been creating notes in OneNote, they're probably no more than 90% accurate in terms of, I might have missed an action and or misrecorded something. So I think that it probably beats the human in that sense anyway. I'm very conscious of time. We've got 8 minutes remaining of the session. But feel free, if people have started to think about questions, to start feeding them into chat. If we don't get the time to answer them on the call, we will certainly answer them in a follow-up. So start pulling those through. I think we'll definitely talk about preparedness. We'll talk a bit about the commercials as well before we adjourn.
Yeah, so these 5 questions are very, very important to me. The first 2 goals and pain points, kind of the same thing. I appreciate there's an awful lot of curiosity when it comes to this, but where it's going to help you in very specific ways, like we looked at today. I think to get the most out of it, having goals that you're looking to achieve or pain points you're looking to address absolutely is going to help you. Have a think about where you're at, but where also your organization's at today in terms of AI. There's almost certainly going to be an education piece that's needed and some support with adoption and readiness. So just have a think about what you need, and then of course, Mike and Finnegan Cloud, if need be, can assist you there as well. We'll talk about a little bit right at the end. Super importantly is around the data strategy. Did you want to talk to that, Mike? I can if you want me to, but
yeah, I think that the promise of AI is great. Promise of what CoPilot for M365 can do is fantastic. I think it's really important that we don't ignore the fact that it's probably not something you can just throw into the organization blindly and without thinking about the security risk. At the end of the day, if you allocate a CoPilot for M365 license to a user and the data isn't structured correctly and you don't have the right controls in place, then you could be opening yourself up to some risk. Simple example, that if, for example, payroll information is somewhere sitting on Teams, and a group member who shouldn't have access to payroll just happens to be part of the group that has access to that, CoPilot will find it. CoPilot will, if you ask CoPilot a question, it's going to search the data that person has access to. And in many respects, I think that this presents a really good opportunity for everyone to reset on data and access strategy. Whilst you can buy CoPilot for M365 with M365 Business Standard, I think our personal recommendation would be Business Premium and above, simply because of the security controls, sensitivity labels, access control components as well that you get with things like Defender. We probably will, because of how important this is, run a follow-up session specifically around data strategy and talking about the things you need to think about, because it is really important and shouldn't be overlooked, but it isn't something we're going to cover in lots of detail today.
I think we're doing pretty good for time. So yeah, these are the three key steps which you've absolutely just touched on there, in terms of having business standard as a minimum, but business premium would be recommended by pretty much everyone on this side, knowing what the features are of those suites, just to ensure that you've got that full security and data protection. And then ties into everything else you were going through there, Mike, in terms of getting the data right, the access and permissions right. A few things here in terms of what Mike and what myself would recommend in terms of doing next. A big one for me is around having someone internally that could be your co-pilot champion. That might be you on the call, but having someone that can bring everyone together if need be to understand where you're at today, where you want to go, and how to get there, and bring everyone along on the journey. Because it's important that everyone in the organizations along on the journey, even if they're not going to have a license, just because I think there is so much unknown about AI. So bringing everyone along on the journey, I would definitely recommend. and having one person owning that, I've seen that be most successful. Yeah, a few things there from our side that sort of we can offer to assist. Is there anything you wanted to particularly talk to there, Mike? Or
I think there's an array of support currently offered by both us and Microsoft, depending on people's appetite. So I think what's right for you is going to vary. I think contact us if you've got questions, queries, or you want to do something specific to your business. I think the offer of a one-to-one call with Cam and I is a great next step for most people, just to go a little bit deeper. I did want to just before we adjourn talk about the commercials very quickly. So as we sit here today, when it was first released, there was all sorts of caveats and minimum order values and that type of thing. So you need to have a minimum of 300 users. It was a minimum of an E3 license. Those things have changed. It's business standard and above. There's no minimum order value. You can order a single license if you really want to. What I will say is that at the moment there's a requirement to buy a license upfront for a year. They haven't yet announced that it will be available on a monthly SKU. Cost per license is just shy of £300 a year for so it's about £24. I think that works out to be a month if you were to amortize it. Sounds a lot, but actually if you break that down into hours per person, for me that's still a bit of a steal. Couple of other stats for you, which I didn't manage to cram into the session, but I think are interesting. 40% of all Microsoft code is currently written by AI, and the GitHub CEO says that in the near future, 80% of all code will be written by CoPilot, which I thought was an interesting stat. The head of learning at Microsoft, a guy called Joe, who again is another person you should certainly follow. He has said that whilst there is lots of longevity in software, their software developers, he has advised them to retrain to accommodate the kind of new changes. We have got a couple of questions. I don't know whether we've got the opportunity to answer both of those. Does the follow feature in Teams work across tenant, i.e. the organizer is using Teams without Copilot enabled, I as the attendee has it enabled? Also in the above example, if it's not possible, is the organizer and other attendees warned that the meeting is being transcribed by me and have the option to opt out?
yeah, so I put an answer to that one where I actually don't know the first point as to who is checking in for licenses. I don't know if you know, Mike. If not, I'll look into that and get the answer. But yeah, I can answer this the second point.
I saw you know. Sorry, I missed that. We'll get an answer. We'll get an answer to you on those.
But yeah, the second point, if you're in a meeting that's being transcribed, yep, everyone in the meeting is made aware that yes, this is being transcribed for Copilot. You don't have the option to opt out of being transcribed. You only have the option to either turn it off or to leave the meeting. So you, as I put that, you can't like say have like 80% of people transcribe, the other 20% not. So yeah, something to consider, especially if it's maybe a more of a confidential meeting. Won't get into it today, but you can sort of have like sensitivity labels for meetings as well if you have a confidential meeting to ensure that the notes aren't being shared with others. But yeah, Microsoft have thought about it for that for those considerations.
It makes sense.
And I think Jonathan had a question on non-profit.
Yes.
Unfortunately not, no. So today the only SKU available for non-profits would be the regular commercial SKU. I haven't heard rumblings of if/when a non-profit one will be available. I would hope so, but I don't want to, say that yes, I've heard it's probably going to come out in the summer. I genuinely don't know, but I hope it's sooner rather than the later.
I have a call with the community non-for-profit guy in a few weeks' time, so I will try and pick his brains for you, Jonathan, on that one. if there are no other, feel free to keep the chat open if you want to, guys. When we adjourn, keep the questions flowing if you'd like. But I think that's it. I think most of you are connected with me, but you're welcome to use me as your primary point of contact. I will share the recording of this so you can distribute it to colleagues, use it as a reference point, as well as some supporting materials. So you're very welcome to use me as the point of contact going forward. But thank you everyone for taking some time out. I hope that was a useful starting point if this is your first exposure to CoPilot. We will do some follow-up sessions focusing on other subjects. You mentioned the data strategy. I think we will do something around that soon. So I'll be sure to invite you guys to that as well. Cam, really appreciate your time. Thank you for spending an hour going through this. As I say, your knowledge on this is vast, so I couldn't have hosted it without you. So thanks, and have a great weekend, everyone. Enjoy the non-sunshine.